You will be the envy of family and friends thanks to these priceless works of art highlighting all of our president's most unforgettable moments. If you call in the next 4 seconds, you'll receive the Sean Spicer Pizza Slicer absolutely free. And then we have systematically watched this president and the administration roll back or attempt to roll back women's rights. So, like I use my platform on social media, each one of you have your own platform.
Alyssa Milano just dropped a bomb on Trump, and boy oh boy did he lose it. The actress, known for her sharp tongue and fierce tweets, aimed right at the orange man's ego. Remember when she called him a walking Cheeto? Well, this time she went even further. Trump's reaction, let's just say it wasn't pretty. He threw a Twitter tantrum that would make a toddler look mature. But Milano? She just kept on swinging, proving that sometimes the best way to fight a bully is with a well-placed tweet and a dash of Hollywood sass. This has always blown my mind a little bit. 91% that watch this show regularly haven't subscribed.
I don't think a president should have to be investigated. There's a report in 2009. Trump and Vladimir Putin's first kiss. Feel the president looking directly at the sun during a solar eclipse.
And then Roe v. Wade, as I think you know, is actually up at 64%.
I also want you to think about that this nominee has actually said out loud.
Could I ask you for a small favor before we start? If you like this show, what we do here, and want to support us, the free simple way you can do just that is by hitting the subscribe button. Remember when Alyssa Milano called Trump a walking Cheeto? Well, she just cranked it up to 11. Our favorite Twitter warrior has been firing off tweets about Trump's policies for a while now, but this time she hit the bullseye. It's like she found Trump's secret kryptonite, and it turns out it's just good old-fashioned truth bombs. Milano's latest tweet wasn't just another celebrity rant. Oh no, this was a masterpiece of political roasting. She compared Trump's policies to something straight out of a dystopian novel. You know, the kind where women are treated like second-class citizens and reproductive rights are a thing of the past. Sound familiar? Milano wasn't pulling any punches. But here's the kicker, she backed it up with some hard facts about women's rights under Trump. It was like watching a debate champion take on a toddler. Milano came armed with statistics, policy details, and a whole lot of righteous anger. Trump's supporters were probably wishing she'd stick to acting, but our girl Alyssa was showing off some serious political chops. Of course, the MAGA crowd tried to dismiss it as just another Hollywood elitist mouthing off. They were sure she'd crossed a line this time. Stick to acting, they said. Nobody cares what a washed-up actress thinks. They cried, but oh boy were they in for a surprise. Because something unexpected happened. Milano's tweet went mega viral. We're talking supernova levels of viral. It spread faster than a rumor in a high school cafeteria. Before you could say "Kofafe," everyone and their grandma was talking about it. The hashtag started trending, and suddenly it wasn't just Alyssa Milano versus Trump anymore. It was like she'd opened the floodgates, and now everyone was jumping in. People were sharing their own experiences, adding their voices to the chorus. It was like watching a digital revolution unfold in real time. Milano's tweet reached millions, forcing even the tweeter-in-chief himself to take notice. You know it's serious when Trump has to tear himself away from his favorite pastime of watching himself on TV to address a tweet. His reaction, let's just say it wasn't exactly presidential. It was more like a toddler who'd been told he couldn't have a second scoop of ice cream. Trump's supporters were left scrambling, trying to put out the fire with their usual tactics. They called Milano a washed-up actress and accused her of seeking attention. But here's the thing. When you're fighting for women's rights, being called attention-seeking is kind of like being called breathing-seeking. It's not an insult, it's just stating the obvious. The more Trump's supporters tried to dismiss Milano, the more people rallied behind her cause. It was like watching a real-life David versus Goliath story unfold, but instead of a slingshot, David had a smartphone and a wicked sense of humor. You'd think after getting roasted by a washed-up actress, Trump would learn to keep his tiny thumbs off Twitter, but no, our tweeter-in-chief decided to double down and throw a full-blown digital tantrum. What happened next? Let's just say it backfired worse than one of his Trump steaks. So Donnie Diapers couldn't handle Milano's burn and decided to fire back. His first tweet called her a washed-up actress. Real original Trumpy. It's like he's got a magic 8-ball of insults. But all the answers are, "You're fired," or "fake news." But this time, his go-to put down showed just how much Milano's tweet got under his orange skin. But wait, there's more. Trump, being the mature leader he is, kept going. He started attacking Milano's acting career like he was some kind of Hollywood critic, because obviously that's super relevant to politics, right? It's like saying, your performance in Who's the Boss wasn't great, so your opinion on healthcare doesn't matter. Nice logic there, Einstein. As Trump kept tweeting, his loyal army of MAGA hat-wearing keyboard warriors joined the fray. Suddenly, Twitter turned into a full-on battleground. It was like watching a bunch of angry Oompa Loompas trying to defend their orange overlord. They were throwing around words like irrelevant and attention seeker faster than Trump scarfs down a bucket of KFC. But here's the kicker. Milano's supporters weren't about to let Grumpy Trumpy and his minions have the last word. They rallied behind her faster than you can say Kofi Faye. They were all like, hey buddy, ever heard of the First Amendment? Milano's got every right to call out your baloney. It was like watching a Twitter version of the Women's March, but with more gifs and fewer pink hats. As the Twitter war raged on, both sides started flinging hashtags like they were magical spells. On Stand With Alyssa was battling it out with Trump Truth. Spoiler alert, there's no such thing. The whole thing spiraled so out of control, it was like watching a tornado made of smartphones. Social media was lit up brighter than Trump's fake tan. But here's the real punchline. Trump's meltdown actually did Milano a solid. The more he tweeted, the more people paid attention to what she was saying. It's like he was her own personal hype man, but instead of shouting, yeah, he was screaming fake news. Every time Trump hit that tweet button, Milano's message about women's rights got blasted to even more people. It was like watching a game of digital ping pong, but every time Trump swung, he somehow managed to score points for Milano. His tweets were like a megaphone for her cause. People who'd never even heard of Alyssa Milano were suddenly like, hey, what's this actress saying that's got the president so worked up? And boom, just like that, they were learning about women's rights issues. The whole Twitterverse was split. Some folks were clutching their pearls, shocked that the president was spending his time insulting an actress instead of, oh, I don't know, running the country? Others were cackling at the absurdity of it all. It was like a reality TV show, but instead of getting voted off the island, Trump was voting himself off the sanity train. Well, folks, it turns out our girl Alyssa wasn't just throwing random shade at the orange turd. She had some serious personal beef with Trump's policies. And let me tell you, it's juicier than one of Donnie Diaper's well-done steaks. See, Milano decided to get real, like really real. She shared a deeply personal story about her own experience with reproductive rights. And boy, did it make Trump's tweets look like small potatoes. Milano dropped a bombshell saying, I asked for an abortion, the Trump administration tried to stop me. Talk about a plot twist. Suddenly, this wasn't just another celebrity Twitter spat. It was a full-on battle for women's rights, with Milano leading the charge. Now you might be thinking, why would an actress go toe-to-toe with the tweeter-in-chief over something so personal? Well, turns out Milano had a bone to pick with Trump's gag rule on abortion. She argued that it's like living in some messed up world where women can't even mention the A word without facing serious consequences. It's like Trump wants to play Big Brother, but instead of watching you, he's trying to control your lady parts. Milano's story hit home for a lot of women. It was like she opened the floodgates, and suddenly, social media was awash with similar tales. Women from all walks of life were sharing their own struggles with reproductive rights. It was like a digital version of The Handmaid's Tale, but with more hashtags and fewer creepy red cloaks. Of course, Trump's loyal MAGA hat-wearing minions couldn't let this slide. They tried to undermine Milano's credibility by calling her a washed-up actress, because apparently, in their world, only currently employed actresses are allowed to have opinions on women's health. Who knew? But here's the kicker, their attempts to shut Milano up backfired big time. Instead of cowering in the face of their insults, Milano stood her ground, and you know what? Her bravery inspired other celebrities to join the fight. Suddenly, it wasn't just Milano versus Trump, it was like the Avengers of women's rights had assembled, and they were ready to take on the sexist Thanos in the White House. As Milano's story spread, it became clear that this wasn't just about politics anymore. This was about real people's lives. It was about women who had to make difficult decisions, only to have a bunch of old dudes in Washington try to take that choice away. Milano's personal experience became a rallying cry for women's rights, and boy, did people rally. The more Trump supporters tried to attack Milano's character, the more support she gained. It was like watching a real-life underdog story unfold, but instead of Rocky Balboa, we had a fierce actress armed with nothing but her Twitter account and a whole lot of righteous anger. Just when you thought the White House couldn't embarrass itself any further, they decided to hold a press conference. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, but instead of vehicles, it was their credibility smashing into a wall of reporters' questions. How bad was it? Let's just say even Sean Spicer was probably feeling secondhand embarrassment. The press secretary looked like they'd rather be getting a root canal than defending Trump's pro-women policies. You could practically see the sweat dripping down their forehead as they tried to spin Trump as some kind of feminist hero. Talk about a tough sell. It's like trying to convince people that the Titanic was actually a submarine. Nobody's buying it, honey. As the press secretary fumbled through their notes, desperately searching for something, anything that could make Trump look good, the reporters weren't having any of it. They came armed with tough questions and weren't afraid to use them. It was like watching a game of dodgeball, but instead of balls, they were throwing hard-hitting questions, and the White House was losing badly. The whole scene was more awkward than a middle school dance. The press secretary kept trying to bring up some vague policy that was supposed to help women, but the details were about as clear as mud. It was like they were playing a game of pin the tail on the women's rights, while blindfolded and spinning in circles. But the real kicker came when one brave reporter asked how the gag rule could possibly be seen as beneficial for women's health. The press secretary's response? Well, let's just say it was about as coherent as Trump's hair in a windstorm. They stumbled and stammered, trying to explain how limiting women's choices was actually empowering. It's like saying, we're helping you lose weight by locking the fridge. Nice try, buddy. The claims that Trump's policies were somehow pro-women were met with more disbelief than a flat earther at a NASA convention. It was clear that the White House's attempt to paint Trump as a champion of women's rights was about as successful as using a fork to eat soup. The more they tried to spin it, the more tangled up they got in their own web of nonsense. As the press conference went on, you could almost hear the collective facepalm of women across America. It was like the White House was playing a game of how many women can we alienate in 1 hour? And let me tell you, they were winning that game bigly. The whole debacle quickly became a viral sensation, but not for the reasons the White House had hoped. Social media exploded with memes and jokes about the press secretary's performance. It was like Christmas came early for comedians and late-night hosts. Even Trump's supporters were cringing so hard they risked pulling a muscle. Meanwhile, Alyssa Milano and her supporters were having a field day. They didn't even need to respond. The White House had done all the work for them. It was like watching your opponent score an own goal in soccer. All Milano had to do was sit back, grab some popcorn, and watch the show. Well, folks, it looks like Alyssa Milano's Twitter takedown of Trump has blown up bigger than his ego, and that's saying something. Her digital smackdown hasn't just racked up likes and retweets. It's got the whole country buzzing about women's rights. Who knew 280 characters could pack such a punch? Experts are saying Milano's celeb status is doing more than just filling gossip columns. It's actually getting people off their butts and into action. Turns out, when a famous face speaks up, people listen. Who'd have thunk it? It's like Milano's got a megaphone plugged into the national consciousness. So next time Trump decides to pick a Twitter fight, he might want to think twice, or at least ask Melania to hide his phone, because if there's one thing we've learned, it's that messing with Milano is like poking a bear, a really witty social media savvy bear with millions of followers. Ouch!